bigger blow that I think. He was the only guy who can create his own shot and be there in the clutch. Rashard Lewis cannot create his own shot off the dribble. He needs to rely on screens and picks and rolls to get his offense. Dwight Howard has no offensive game whatsoever unless it's a putback dunk.
That's what it does. That's what he does. He's been averaging a double-double for the past 6 seasons.
Is the ultimate underachiever in the NBA.
Not this year.
Ultimate
I was watching a
underachiever.
preseason game. I know.
Underachiever.
That it is preseason. They were playing the Hawks. They crushed them by like 40, man. You know,
it's preseason.
I know.
Complete underachiever. I think Cleveland.
Considering the East, I'm gonna go with the Magic against the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals. Going to the West, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, you really don't. You hear about the Lakers all the time, bringing in Ron Artest. Give it all. He's a great defensive player and everything.
We'll get to them in a bit.
But you know, you got to think about the Spurs making big moves.
Listen, I think for me, if I were to pick one team that would be a surprise team, not a title contender, but a team that may surprise some guys this year, would be Atlanta. I think they get a top 4 pick, the top 4 seed.
All they did was get Jamal Crawford, which we all know he's a bust.
Listen, they're gonna be a big time offensive team. They're gonna run up and down. They're gonna outscore teams. They're good, but I think they surprised some teams with a top 5 seed this year in the East. Almost that. The top 5 seed, but if I were to pick a clear favorite in the East, I'd have to say Boston, unfortunately. I'm not a big fan. What's that? I'd have to pick Boston, and not because I think they're really good, just because I think the rest of the East has not gotten any better. I think Cleveland gets worse with the Shaq trade. Orlando, I think, has a lot of hype. I don't think they got any better with Vince Carter. I don't think it's as clear an upgrade as people think it is over Hedo Turkoglu. So.
There you go, man. That's Superman right there for you, man. The Big Shaq. Not. Anyways, guys. It's just a Superman scene.
Okay, so let's move to the West here. Let's kind of give a West, and I have a big time sleeper here in the West, but we'll get to them. How do you see the West shaking out? How do you see the West?
Yeah, you know, you could list a whole bunch. West is definitely the league's Premier League,
Premier Conference.
Premier Conference to say the best. But I mean, you can list a whole bunch of them. But at the end of the day, I'm just gonna focus on 2 teams in the West because we all know that that's what the league's gonna come down to. You're gonna see the San Antonio Spurs. Despite their age, they are definitely an old team.
This team has done so much for them. This is the model NBA franchise.
Absolutely. I hate Tim Duncan. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan of Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan is, not overrated. He's good. But
he's one of the best of all time. What do you mean overrated?
He's not a spectacular player, though.
That's why he doesn't get. He's in San Antonio, and he's not a flashy type
watching a San Antonio Spurs game.
It is painful. It is kind of a drag.
You have to really have nothing to do on a Friday night ESPN game to watch the San Antonio Spurs play from 9 p.m. to midnight. But regardless, to say the least, on the team here, you got to give it up to Richard Jefferson's a decent player, man.
Listen, I think the Spurs have improved over. If you were to pick any team that improved over last year, it was the Spurs. They're the clear NBA Finals favorite to come out of the West. I think the Lakers have got worse. The subtraction of Trevor Ariza is vastly underrated. What is not to like about Trevor Ariza? He's a guy who was 23, 24 years old, a solid wing guy, improving offensively, a stud defensively, and they got instead of him, they got Ron Artest.
With egos are gonna clash.
Listen, he is the king of jacking up that horrible 25-foot three-pointer at the worst possible time. His defensive skills have declined to the point where he cannot stay in front of the faster wing guys. He was playing in a preseason game, and Kobe had to switch on Corey Maggette of all players because he couldn't keep in front of Corey Maggette.
And he's called a so-called defender.
And he's a defensive specialist.
He's overrated.
It's ridiculous.
His best years are over.
It's ridiculous. I think the Lakers have been That was a horrible. I cannot say how
sure
bad that move was.
I'm pretty sure what they're trying to do is, besides...
And they could have got Ariza at half the price.
Listen, I'm a big sports fan. I'm a big Chicago Bulls fan. Let's go back to '96 when the Bulls had that great season. I'm pretty sure, and again, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure what they're trying to do is copy the Chicago Bulls. I mean, they're trying to bring in a loudmouth, bad boy type of guy like Dennis Rodman. First of all, Ron Artest is not going to give you the defense that Dennis Rodman gave you. He's not going to give you the rebounds that he gave you. He's going to want to take minutes away from Lamar.
Have you heard some of the stories about him and the Rockets? That this past year, Ron Artest broke into the Los Angeles Lakers. He broke into the locker room naked, talks to Kobe Bryant in the showers, and says he wants to join the Lakers next year. Or how about the time that he was so late to the team bus from the hotel that he walks out in a towel from the hotel on the last team bus to leave to the game, and the team owner and his family's on the bus, and he's sitting there with naked, only covered by a towel. This guy is a clinically insane person.
This guy, you've heard Dennis Rodman being a distraction, but Dennis Rodman on the floor, he gave it his all, and that's why the Bulls won what they won. But this guy, everyone's talking about the Lakers. He's just going to ruin the relationship the Lakers have with Lamar Odom at one point. Kobe Bryant and him are going to clash like they did last year in the playoffs. This is a horrible move by the Lakers. You'll see that this team is way too overrated. When you have too much star power, too much ego power, it can only lead to destruction, as Bill Walton would say. But definitely San Antonio.
I definitely see this person.
Dallas definitely added some key players. You got Dallas up there as always. Phoenix, they're not. I think they're in a rebuilding. If they were in the East, they'd definitely be a contender, but not in the West. Portland, young team, good. Utah, definitely, but you definitely got to look out for San Antonio. Lakers will be up there, unfortunately.
So, who do you think comes out of the West?
I'm thinking this year it will definitely be seeing how their age and the team that they have. I think San Antonio made the best moves in the West. I'm thinking it's going to be San Antonio Spurs versus the Orlando Magic in the finals. Okay.
So, one sleeper team from the West.
Sleeper team? As always, man, you got to go with the Denver Nuggets. Denver Nuggets were close to beating out the Lakers, who ended up being the champions. So, I mean, you got to give it up to the Denver Nuggets.
I think I have a sneaky sleeper pick. You're going to be surprised, but this team is young, is fast.
Please tell me that I just
and listen, Oklahoma City.
Oh my goodness, this show's over.
Oklahoma City is making the playoffs this year in the West as a 7 or 8 seed.
With Nick Collison?
Listen, Kevin Durant is a legitimate MVP candidate coming into this year. Russell Westbrook. This is Russell Westbrook. Who did they draft in the first? Russell Westbrook, James Harden. First round pick. I think is definitely a guy, good character guy. He's going to contribute right off the bat. This is and Jeff Green, who was a first rounder the year before. This is going to be a young team. They're going to be fast. They're going to score. They're going to play hard. And I think they're a legitimate threat to make the playoffs.
I'm going to go out on a limb here.
Mark it up. Oklahoma City.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and that's not because of these Carta Blancas, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, if Oklahoma City even makes the playoffs in the West, in this competitive league that we have in the West, you will not see the Chicago Bustankas.
I'd rather have them than Dallas. Dallas is overrated.
Well, yeah, man, but this is ridiculous. That's like saying
Oklahoma City's making the playoffs. They're making it.
Gosh,
they're making it.
That's your opinion.
So, I think that wraps up our NBA talking. I think that wraps up second edition of the League Web Show in general.
Hey, I had a lot of fun. Thanks for having me out here. And this was definitely a great experience. And we got a long season ahead of us. We got the football game coming up, the Classic.
The second edition of the Mid-Season Classic coming up November 7th. Hope to have all of you guys that can be there out. We're gonna play some football, play some wings, and have some beers afterwards, man.
Definitely, man.
Should be a good time.
Peace out, guys.
Peace out, guys.
You guys have a good time.
Good time.